Today we're talking about the real story behind why the Black Myth Wukong DLC never arrived. Because on the internet, especially on social media, this DLC was treated as almost guaranteed for a long time. Early 2025 rumors, discussed timelines, even talk about a Chinese New Year window made everyone think the next step is obviously DLC. But time passed, no announcement came, no date came, and eventually we were left with one question: what exactly happened to this DLC? Today I'm going to walk you through how this expectation formed, how it unraveled, and why the studio may have shifted its focus somewhere else. Before we dive into the details, a quick request. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. We're currently dealing with serious algorithm issues. The videos aren't being recommended like before, which means they're not reaching the same level of views. Your like and your comment genuinely make a difference in pushing this video forward. If you're ready, let's begin. When Black Myth Wukong launched, it wasn't just a successful game, it was potential. Released on the 20th of August 2024, the game made a huge impact with its technical quality and mythological theme. For many players, it didn't feel like an ending, it felt like a beginning. And with a project of this scale, it's unusual for it to stand alone. Usually something follows, an expansion, a sequel, another step. After Wukong's release, that exact conversation began. DLC. There was no official roadmap, but behind-the-scenes talk suggested that expansion ideas were being considered. These rumors didn't appear out of nowhere. The game's design naturally supported expansion. The universe could be widened, the story could grow, new regions could be added, the structure allowed it. So, the expectation wasn't weak, it was logical. Toward the end of 2024, the early 2025 window started being mentioned more frequently. The Chinese New Year period especially seemed like a perfect opportunity. Momentum could be maintained, interest was still high, the player base was active. But one detail was crucial. This window was never officially confirmed by the studio. There was strong expectation, but no official anchor holding it in place. Time passed, the calendar approached, then passed, and the expected signal never arrived. No teaser, no roadmap, not even a statement saying we're working on it. That's when a small question started growing. If an expansion truly existed, why so much silence? Large projects can move quietly, yes. But complete silence without even a hint is rare. During that silence, something Reuters reported began to stand out. Game Science founder Feng Ji acknowledged that DLC was a good option. That wording mattered. It didn't close the door. But in the same conversations, another emphasis appeared. New heroes, new gameplay systems, new technology, a new Black Myth experience. That tone pointed toward a different kind of excitement. It wasn't clearly saying we are not making DLC, but the energy felt redirected. There's a subtle difference here. When a studio is actively working on DLC, the language is usually clearer. Expansion is coming, we're developing it. Details soon. Instead, the language here felt less like adding another floor onto the existing structure and more like building something new. Feng Ji's excitement seemed centered not on a content add-on, but on a broader creative space. That naturally raises a question. Was the internal plan truly an expansion, or something else entirely? Success plays a critical role here. Wukong's launch was bigger than expected, and massive success doesn't make DLC easier, it makes it harder. Any expansion would no longer be seen as a small addition. Players would expect it to match the base game in scale and impact. That level of expectation puts the studio in a difficult position. Either deliver a truly massive expansion or risk being seen as underwhelming. In that kind of pressure environment, a new project can become more attractive. A new game means creative freedom from zero. Instead of working within the limitations of the existing structure, you can design entirely new systems. A new hero means a new narrative. New technology means resetting the technical bar. From this angle, DLC is an extension. A new game is a directional shift. This is where the turning point forms. Officially, no one said the DLC was canceled. Officially, no one said we are not doing expansion. But the picture suggests the studio may have shifted its energy away from expanding the current game and toward taking the Black Myth brand into a bigger frame. To understand this shift, we need to step back. Why would a studio choose to move away from extending a proven success and instead focus on a riskier new project? Because sometimes the biggest risk is continuing the same thing. With Wukong's success, every additional piece of content would immediately face comparison. Is it as good as the base game? That question would be unavoidable. DLC could easily turn from content production into expectation management crisis. Inside the creative team, the question is not only about timing. After years of development and a huge launch, external observers may say, now expand it. But internally, the dynamic can be different. Stay within the same world and make incremental additions, or start building a new concept. Feng Ji's repeated emphasis on new hero and new technology hints at where that internal motivation may have shifted. That is a change in creative direction. It's also important to remember that the DLC idea was never officially presented as a concrete public plan. So what we're seeing is not the cancellation of a formally announced project, but the fading of an unconfirmed expectation. That distinction matters. From the outside, it looks like the DLC didn't come. From the inside, it may simply be that DLC was never prioritized as the main focus. As signals about a new project strengthened, the picture became clearer. Clues suggesting that the Black Myth brand could expand in larger ways pointed towards something beyond a simple add-on. This could mean a sequel. It could mean a new mythological protagonist. It could mean a different perspective within the same universe. But the common thread is clear. The energy was flowing not toward expansion-scale content, but toward a new beginning. And here we reach the part of the story that doesn't have an official label. Because after a point, silence and hints aren't enough. The direction becomes visible. According to the framework reported by Reuters, Feng Ji's statements reveal the studio's mindset. DLC is an option, yes, but it's not what they want to do right now. Their energy is focused on new heroes, new technology, new systems, and a new Black Myth game. The reason the DLC didn't arrive is not a technical delay. It's much simpler. DLC was not the priority. A new project was, and that effectively put DLC on hold. The key thing is this: the studio never said DLC is canceled and will never happen. They deliberately avoided that wording. That's what keeps part of the community hopeful, because without an official cancellation, the door technically remains open. But without a timeline, there's no evidence of an active production line either. That dual state, no cancellation and no schedule, tells us one clear thing. Even if a DLC plan exists, it is not the studio's main focus right now. And anything that is not the main focus will naturally feel invisible from the outside. So maybe the better question is not why didn't the DLC arrive, but why did DLC fall into second place? Because a game like Wukong creates its own pressure. As the game grows, expectations grow. And as expectations grow, the scale of any expansion must grow with it. At some point, that expansion becomes so large that it nearly resembles a new game in cost and effort. And the studio may ask itself, if we're investing this much time and energy, why package it as an add-on? Why not build a full new title instead? Choosing a new game over DLC can be the logical response to that pressure. What does this mean for Wukong's future? There are two realistic paths, and both connect to the same core truth. Wukong's story is not necessarily finished, but the format of its continuation may change. One possibility is that after completing the new project, the studio returns to Wukong and develops DLC later. But that would not be immediate, because current signals suggest resources are focused elsewhere. The second possibility is that Wukong returns not as DLC, but as something bigger, a sequel, a more expansive continuation. In that sense, the absence of DLC does not equal the end of Wukong. It could simply mean the next chapter will arrive in a different form. So in summary, the DLC not arriving does not mean Wukong is done. The picture suggests the studio chose to prioritize a new project over short-term expansion. But that does not mean the Wukong universe is being abandoned. The story still has room to grow. The sales success provided strong momentum. Completely walking away from a brand of that size would make little sense. Maybe not as DLC, but most likely through a larger continuation, they will return to this universe. What do you think? Would you have preferred a DLC, or do you want to see a full new Wukong game instead? Write your thoughts in the comments and let's talk. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. See you in the next one.